course, we'll find out what traders have been buying and selling this week. Let's bring in Gemma Dale from nabtrade, who joins us in the studio. Gemma, welcome along.
Thank you.
So we've had a lot of news. We're coming to earnings season. You know, obviously market sentiment's still kind of bearish and things are quite wild. Has there been much of a change in behaviour this week amongst nabtrade investors?
The most interesting thing is just how subdued it is. You know, there's not much happening. I mean, you can see it in overall volumes, and there isn't any dramatic change in the volumes, to be honest with you. It's all pretty flat and pretty quiet. What is most interesting, though, is that the average trade size is massive, absolutely massive by historical comparison. So if you look back over the last couple of years, because we had this massive flood of new investors and new traders, mostly investors, right? Most of them bought and hold. There wasn't any kind of wild activity that we saw on our platform anyway. It kind of hid the fact that average trade sizes came down quite a lot. You know, people were making small plays during that period, but there were just so many of them. Volumes were enormous. At the moment, volumes are really, really low, but the people who are playing, they're not mucking around. Like, they're really putting their bets in, and they're making quite sizable trades. The handful who are still playing, they're playing quite hard at the moment. It's really interesting.
Really? Okay. So does that mean, just on that before we move on, just perhaps the more sophisticated crowd are a little bit more involved in the market? Maybe the retail traders have just sort of gone, things aren't as perhaps easy as they were 12 months ago, when you can kind of buy and hold and see your share price shoot up over the space of 6 months. Is that kind of what we're looking at? Yeah,
100%. Like, these are older, more mature, definitely wealthier, like much wealthier. It's just a different group entirely. We don't see the young guys just actively playing this, which, to be honest, I think it's a good thing. If you haven't seen this kind of market before, it's best not to, you know, trade your shirt away. It's best to kind of sit back and go, okay, this is interesting. I've not seen this before. Few people lost a bit of money. It hurts. You want to learn from that experience, but our older guys, they've seen this before. They know how this plays out, and so they have a feel for what's going on, and they'll trade their favorite things, and it's quite interesting. There's a real bifurcation of behavior.
Yeah, of course. It's a pejorative term, but the smart money versus the dumb money, so to speak. You know, and being a bit of an indicator of overall market sentiment. But I just had a very interesting one on ANZ on your notes here, because clearly that has been probably the biggest news, arguably the biggest news for the week. How have nabtrade investors responded to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the big news for our guys, right? Financials matter, and materials matter, and everything else is at the margin. ANZ is not a favourite. It's the least favourite of the banks. It's the one that people have the least interest in. Westpac's been the big play over the last 18 months. It's been the one they've been most keen on. It hasn't been a great trade, to be honest with you, but it has been the one that they've liked the most. CBA is a hold, right? If you've got CBA, just hang on to it forever, because frankly, selling it doesn't seem to ever do you any good. So they tend to hang on to CBA. They've been buying Westpac. ANZ, they've ignored it. Not this week, right? So it was a massive buy yesterday. Absolutely huge volumes. People just all over that, which I assume indicates that they're quite keen on the idea, and that they think it's an opportunity for ANZ to kind of claw back some of that loss of market share.
Yeah, it always helps when these companies hit the headlines, don't they?
Yeah. Hoping for a turnaround story, right?
Absolutely, and we all love a turnaround story. But just in terms of also the major miners as well, maybe a bit of buy the dip there, if I'm not mistaken.
Look, our guys love to buy anything that's been a little bit beaten up, a little bit sold off, anything that they believe is a quality story that they want to hold for the longer term, even if they've got a ton of it already. So we saw it in financials. When they got beaten up, they'll just buy more, to the point where they've just got insane quantities of financials, to the point where maybe we need to trim that a little bit.
Very overweight financials.
Very overweight financials. We're also very, very overweight BHP, which is a challenge in a market where BHP is 11% of the market.
Yeah.
You can still be overweight. Some of our guys are. So there's been buying of BHP. Rio's back in. Rio's not really a favourite, right? It's not one of the ones that they love very much. It's sort of top 20, not top 10, definitely not top 5.
Yep.
But it's back in. Those two are both over 90% buy at the moment. They're really, really keen. And Fortescue, the swings are quite aggressive at the moment. So it's a real trading stock. They love that and they trade it, the little number who love it. It was like a 91% sell 2 days ago. And then yesterday it was back in as a buy. So very aggressive swings on Fortescue, big buys on the other two.
Yeah, I do remember, again, in a past life, refer to my past life twice in today's episode, so I should stop doing it. But yeah, I do remember the fondness for speculators when it comes to Fortescue. But lithium as well, it hasn't gone away.
It hasn't. It got quiet, right? Obviously, there was that just massive sell-off when everyone decided that it was all worth 20% less than it was the day before. And that hurt a few of our guys, but they kind of like the long-term story. So there's a few back in, Pilbara Minerals back in, Core Lithium's back in, all the names are back in again. They're all back in the top 10, big favourites. You know, it's nice to pick up, and I think everyone, particularly again, the more mature investors, they like their specky plays. You want to have some fun in your portfolio. Yeah. Lithium's that play, right? And they're just grabbing it when they can. It's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Just 5% for your funny money.
Yeah.
Finally, just Tesla, just because again we're talking a lot about sentiment and the swings and roundabouts, I suppose you could say. But the result didn't necessarily change anything much.
I'm fascinated by this, right? Because it's the big play on international. Like if you look at a chart of our international trades and holdings, it's like Tesla, everything else. It's quite fascinating how dramatically huge it is compared to everything else. They're just not that interested in the results, right? They just like Tesla because the results did nothing. It's exactly the same as the previous day's trades. It's mostly a buy. There's been a bit of trimming lately. The dollar plays it off, right? So there's sort of a currency impact there, but it's still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
I never understood it either, but people love Tesla.
They love it. I think they love Elon, right? I think that's what it is.
It's that charismatic pull.
Yeah, it's all about him. If he left, I would be quite fascinated to see what would happen to that stock. I imagine there would be some dramatic selling.
Yes, and probably in Dogecoin too, I would imagine too. But that we'll leave that to someone else to talk about. But Gemma Dale, love to wrap these things on a Friday with you. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you so much.